It's Thursday, the 29th of February 2024. I only get to say that date every 4 years. These are the science and space headlines you need to know now. Hyimpulse en route to Koonibba for historic launch. The moon landing that wasn't quite as soft as hoped is still a success. And Dimorphos was likely reshaped by DART. Welcome to Talking Science. First up, NASA's timed satellite that's been studying Earth for over 20 years has been buzzed by the dead Russian spy satellite Cosmos 2221, which came within 20 metres earlier this week. The Russian satellite is over 30 years old, according to NASA, weighing in at 2 tonne, and is another example of the perils of Earth orbit, with these two non-manoeuvrable satellites inevitably crossing each other's paths again in the future, but not this close. A leading German rocket manufacturer, Hyimpulse, has packed up their SR-75 rocket, ready for its maiden launch in South Australia in late April or early May this year. The SR-75 rocket uses Hyimpulse's unique propulsion technology, which combines paraffin wax and liquid oxygen to create a hybrid rocket. This launch will be the first time the SR-75 has lifted off from Earth to validate this groundbreaking technology. Southern Launch said in a press release that the innovative hybrid rocket engine and non-explosive fuel used by the SR-75 is a game changer for the transportation and handling of rockets, and that it's a key reason why the trip to Australia isn't an issue for Germany-based Hyimpulse. This launch will be the first from Southern Launch's permanent facilities at Koonibba, and Talkin' Science is making plans to bring you all of the launch activities from on the ground. Looking forward to that. Well, the first clear images of the Odysseus lander on the lunar surface have been released, a week on from its semi-successful soft landing. And while she's lying on one side with a broken leg, telemetry is being received, and it is continuing to function. As I record, the team are entering their 6th day of the 8-day mission of providing NASA with valuable scientific data. An analysis of the descent flight path has revealed that the 1 metre per second landing with laser range finding was actually 3 times faster with optical cameras used for altitude and velocity telemetry. This meant the soft landing was a little harder than planned, which caused sideways movement of the craft, leading to a skid, the broken leg, and the tip over. It's believed Odysseus is resting on one of its yellow helium pressure tanks at a 30-degree angle to the surface, and due to that positioning, the solar panels will soon lose sight of the sun and the batteries will drain. Before then, though, the robot is expected to enter hibernation, and engineers will attempt to revive the craft in mid-March when the sun dawns once again. A new type of electromagnetic shield designed and manufactured at RMIT has been launched into space this week by the Swedish Space Corporation from their Esrange Space Centre in the north of the country. The experiment, called Radicals, has the capacity to fundamentally change how astronauts and electronics are protected from harmful radiation in space by promising to be smaller, lighter, and filter out more types of radiation. The 10-centimetre CubeSat was joined by 11 other experiments, making up the 442-kilo payload on the maiden flight of the Red Kite, an improved male-mute motor combination rocket operated by the German Aerospace Centre. It reached an apogee of 265 kilometres, with all experiments back on Earth within an hour. The Radicals project is led by RMIT space physicist Dr. Gail Isles, an associate professor in physics who has previously worked at the European Space Agency. A new method to assess different satellite designs using a powerful artificial intelligence technique to more cheaply monitor our planet from space has been released. Thanks to an international team led by Swinburne University of Technology and leading provider of global Earth observation data, Planet Labs, the AI-powered method reduces the cost of Earth observation satellites while keeping the quality of images high. And traditionally, designing and operating Earth observation satellites involves trade-offs between the size, cost, and quality of different hardware options. And because taking images of the Earth's surface is important for many applications, from monitoring climate change and biodiversity loss to tracking extreme events like bushfires and floods, it's critical that companies work towards lowering the cost of Earth observation satellites to allow better tracking of these important events. The asteroid moon Dimorphos may have been reshaped after NASA smashed the DART spacecraft into it back in 2022, according to international researchers. As well as knocking Dimorphos off course, the spacecraft also gathered information on its internal structure and the effects of the impact. The researchers used computer simulations to recreate the collision as closely as possible, and the closest match they could achieve was by simulating Dimorphos as a weak pile of rubble, likely comprised of material shed from its own asteroid, Dimorphos. The simulations also indicated that the impact wouldn't have left a crater, but could have reshaped the moon in its entirety, a process known as global deformation. The DART planetary defense demonstrator accomplished its mission on September 26, 2022, when it impacted the asteroid moon, shortening its orbital period by 33 minutes. DART has important planetary defense applications, but the spacecraft also provided information on the internal structure of asteroids and the effect of an impact on their properties. Fascinating stuff. Scientists studying the Trappist-1 system have made a discovery that likely dashes the hopes of either colonisation in the future or finding life on exoplanets. Trappist-1 is of particular interest to exoplanet researchers because it's relatively close by, at just 40 light years. But with Trappist-1e rapidly transitioning between very different stellar wind conditions and pressures, there appears to be a pulsing compression and relaxation of the planetary magnetic field. This causes significant electric currents in the ionosphere that heats up the atmosphere. And while we experience the same effects here on Earth, TRAPPIST-1e's compressions are likely to be 100,000 times stronger. TRAPPIST-1e is the fourth planet from the host star, with the first already lost its atmosphere and the fifth and sixth experiencing similar effects, though at much less intensity. Varda Space Industries' W1 mission capsule landed in the northern Utah desert on February 21, bringing with it crystals of an antiviral drug that were grown in orbit. This makes Varda, who have signed a partnership with Southern Launch to conduct future re-entry operations at Koonibba, just the third private company to recover an intact spacecraft, after Boeing with Starliner and SpaceX with Dragon. While other companies have returned space-made products before, they've relied on third parties to ferry their precious cargo for them. The W1 mission, though, is a fully in-house operation, save for launch, which hitched a ride on SpaceX's Transporter 8 rideshare mission back in June last year. And while the growth was successful a week later, plans to return it to Earth were delayed for several months by the FAA and US military while they worked through their approval processes. Well, Trekzone membership gets you in first releases and first details. With a few tiers and a few options, you can help Australia's only science, space and science fiction podcast pick up the pace in 2024. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok and YouTube Shorts all have podcast highlights, so find us where you are. For now, this is Talking Science under construction on the 24th of February 2024.